Joining us now for War Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Vimbai Muchinhiri Ekpenyong. Good morning, Vimbai.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. How are you all doing today?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, let's get straight into it. There's a lot happening on the global scene. But as the sun sets on 2025, it's clear that the U.S. President Donald Trump is determined to launch the new year by taking charge of the geopolitical puzzle. And he's doing all of this from his home in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Now, following the engagement with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky that took place day before yesterday, Trump played host to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just yesterday to discuss the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire. Now, whilst the two leaders were in agreement about possible strikes against Iran and renewing efforts to wipe out Hamas, Trump alluded to the fact that they do not agree 100% on the West Bank. Israeli domestic politics also took center stage as Donald Trump committed to assisting Netanyahu in getting clemency for his corruption charges.
How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and he tells me it's on its way.
Well, the Israeli president's office says that they're not aware of that particular conversation that Donald Trump is alluding to, and I'm sure there'll be several reactions to him calling Benjamin Netanyahu a hero. Anyway, it's believed that U.S. support will be central to Netanyahu's re-election campaign strategy as the nation heads to the polls in October 2026. Now, what does the U.S. get in return for all of this? Well, the continued push for the expansion of the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords, of course, a series of U.S. brokered agreements signed in 2020, 2021 that normalized diplomatic relations between Israel and several Arab nations that include UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. So yesterday, we also reported on the recognition of Somaliland based off of the same initiative. And Israel's pitch hinges on reshaping the Middle East and getting Trump his Nobel Peace Prize. So this is a look at what the world looks like under the Abraham Accords. And you can see that this does give the United States inroads into the Middle East. If it does expand and if it's successful, this map excludes Somaliland and, of course, Kazakhstan, who joined last month. Now, let's move elsewhere to the Russia-Ukraine war, which may probably be the biggest thorn in Donald Trump's side when it comes to getting that Nobel Peace Prize that he wants so badly. As Russia vowed to retaliate after the Kremlin yesterday accused Kiev of targeting Russian President Vladimir Putin's Novgorod residence with 91 long-strike drones, none of which hit their target, according to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. However, the attack is said to have happened just as the Zelensky meeting with Trump concluded.
В ночь с 28 на 29 декабря 2025 года киевский режим предпринял террористическую атаку с использованием 91 ударного беспилотного летательного аппарата дальнего действия на государственную резиденцию президента Российской Федерации в Новгородской области. Подобные безрассудные действия не останутся без ответа. Объекты для ответных ударов и время их нанесения вооруженными силами России определены.
A very strong statement by Sergei Lavrov. However, the statement is a little bit unusual, as Russia's defense ministry and regional authorities are typically the ones to report on Ukrainian drone attacks, not the foreign minister. However, Kiev has denied being behind any strikes and has accused Russia of fabricating the attack to derail the peace talks. Trump has, however, preemptively condemned the attack if it is found to be true. Now, let's move closer to home in the West African region, as Niger's military rulers had approved a general mobilization and authorized the requisition of people and goods as they intensify the fight against armed groups across the country, and this is according to a government statement. The decision followed a cabinet meeting on Friday and marks a major escalation by the military government. Now, the statement issued late on Saturday reads, and I quote, "Every citizen is required to respond immediately to any call-up or recall order to comply without delay with the implementation of measures for the defense defense of the homeland and to submit to requisition. Now, on your screens, you're seeing images released by the Nigerian government that they allege is the response, huge response that they're calling it to this call-up. They say 16,000 Nigerians have requested to be mobilized into the army. Again, these are images from the Nigerian government, not independently verified, but they say this is the crowd of 16,000 people. Well, now, this development is coming after U.S. commenced strikes against ISIS in northwestern Nigeria, bordering with Niger. It's reported that terrorists were seen fleeing Sokoto after the strikes, causing two major threats to Niger. Now, the first threat is, of course, obvious, a surge in insurgent activity in the nation. The second is the Niger-Benin oil pipeline, which runs parallel to the Nigeria-Niger border. So if we take a look at it, here it is running, it really just skirts across the border with Nigeria. So from inland Niger all the way to Benin, down to the port of Seme. And this pipeline is said to be responsible for millions of barrels of crude oil being exported out of Niger for the first time since 2024 and has a capacity to do over 100,000 barrels per day. Now, with insurgents in the area are now said to be targeting the flow of fuel in the AES states. It is clear that Niger is on high alert to protect this major asset. Now, if you look at these maps, you can see that they have already been victim of pipeline sabotages in the past. And a lot of this terrorist activity here does happen along the line of the Niger-Benin pipeline. So this could be one major reason why the AES are pushing towards what they're calling the Black Winter. Now, as we conclude on the World Brief, let's now take a look at what's making headlines here in Nigeria. Of course, we always begin with this day, and as already has been discussed, but I think because it's such a huge shock to us, we continue to unpack the tragic incident as we see this image of Anthony Joshua in total anguish as he is extracted from the wreckage of the vehicle that killed two of his best friends yesterday along the Lagos-Ibadan Express. Federal Road and Safety Corps have, of course, attributed the cause of the accident to overspeeding and wrongful overtaking. And we know that President Tinubu has sent his condolences to the legendary boxer whilst wishing him a speedy recovery. He's said to have put in a phone call to him directly. And, of course, condolences continue to pour in. We've also seen them coming in from Lagos State Government and Ogun State Government. However, as the conversations that have already been had by my colleagues this morning spark concerns around driver conduct, the implementation of our road laws, especially because we do know that sometimes trucks and cars do break down. But what about the precaution of putting your reflector at a distance to ensure that you don't cause this type of tragedy? Now may the souls of the departed rest in peace. Now, above the masthead is all about NNPC. Now, this is said to be taken from a report from Reuters, but it's all about how NNPC is set to sell selected oil gas assets, invite bids. This is, of course, as President Tinubu has written off $1.42 billion and 5.57 trillion naira of debt from the oil company. Just like that. Wow, it's a good day for NNPC. The Advocate, of course, today is Tuesday. Onikepo Braithwaite always gives us her insight, and today is all about the tax laws and allied matters as she further unpacks the discrepancies, the scandal, and what she calls the abracadabra of what is currently going on with the reports around the tax laws, the differences between the various versions. To Punch newspaper, which is focusing on security, U.S. airstrikes, DHQ sets up a watch on fleeing terrorists. And of course, this is as monitoring of ISWAP members continues. And some communities in Benue State have started reporting an influx of terrorists. This is as debate continues about whether the U.S. should add soldiers on the ground to complement the strike action. And the room is divided on that. New Telegraph newspaper very quickly is also taking security matters, anti-terrorism fight. U.S. Christmas Day bombing killed many terrorists. That's a direct quote, and this is also as the Nigerian Air Force has intensified its campaign. They've hit targets in Zamfara, and our army has also hit some targets in Borno. So, as much as there's emphasis on the U.S. airstrikes, our own troops are also waging their own war. Now, there's also a mention on these tax issues. So one is down here, which is suspend tax laws until probe ends. This is a call by the Reps Minority Caucus. They are telling the federal government to suspend the tax laws until the probe is concluded. The top of the paper reports on the federal government suspending 10% withholding tax on aircraft leases. They said that number will be reviewed. We know that aircraft aviation taxes have been a huge focus of conversation since we had Alan Onyema on the morning show on Sunday morning talking about what he foresees as an increase in airline and ticketing prices in the new year, and he relates it to tax issues. However, the NCAA have countered that. Now to Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard documents our end-of-year parting gift from the national grid. This is following the fourth nationwide collapse of the grid this year, and that took place yesterday, and it left majority of the nation in darkness. So the national grid is wishing us a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We close with one international paper in China. We have China Daily. This is as the Chinese People's Liberation Army yesterday conducted major drills near Taiwan, and this was as a stern warning against any potential separatist agenda. I'm not sure if prospects of world peace are looking any more hopeful in the year 2026. I cede the floor. I hand over to you, Rufai Ayo and Dr. Bati.
I mean, we can't talk about Joshua enough. Very sad one. Very, very sad one. But real quickly, as regards Donald Trump, yes, he's trying to upend the world order from Mar-a-Lago, but he's missing all the steps. So he's talking to Netanyahu again, and they're trying to strike Iran again. I thought they said, after using the B-2 bombers to strike the nuclear facility, the Fordo nuclear facility, I thought that was all of it. But now they're saying, oh, Iran is enriching once again, and that's a problem. They've not sorted the problem they created in Gaza out. They said there's a ceasefire. As far as I'm concerned, that's not true, because people are still being killed on the daily in Gaza. The killing is still going on. It's just that the world media came out of Gaza. And now they're talking about the West Bank, which Israeli are encroaching, building on Palestinian area, and also killing Palestinians that are there, Israeli settlers there. So as regards that, and that's why you see there's a big problem now on the right wing. The likes of Nick Fuentes are now saying that America first should not be Israel first. That our country is too beholden to Israel. And that's why they're calling out anybody that has an IPAC donation or support. That's why they're calling out Ted Cruz and the likes. And even if it's not only the likes of Nick Fuentes that's going that route, you have the likes of Tucker Carlson also going that route. They are saying pretty much what Trump is doing is America first. He's tilting towards Israel. And it's not even giving us enough time to be able to face the domestic issues in the country. While all of that is going on, Sergei Lavrov sells a lie and a ruse. I mean, we all know that anytime Sergei Lavrov's come with that lie that, Russia was attacked, it's a pretext because they want to heavily pound Ukraine, which they did, because that's the justification for the pounding. And as regards that, Trump has also missed the ball. You thinking that Putin will be able to accede to a deal rather than getting land is a joke. And what he went out to say that Putin wants the best interest for Ukraine, are you kidding me? Putin wants the best interest for himself. So you will see that the same war Putin said, Trump said was going to settle in 24 hours. He's lost the plot of that. He's not going to be able to settle that war. Putin will just drag on and hope for one day that Ukraine will be so weak and Europe will not be able to, buffer Ukraine. And what will happen will be chaos. And he'll attack and take over Ukraine. And he'll keep urging Israel on. And Israel will continue to decimate the area. So for him, he should keep deceiving himself with this Abraham Accord. The Middle Eastern nations that are benefiting from America today, they will keep lying to them. But when the deal is off the table, they'll revert. They know what's going on.
Okay, in Niger, our sibling country, neighboring country, but one of the things, since the military coup, in 2023, July of 2023, a number of things have happened. And it shows that when you see leadership it's not as easy as it seems. First thing is that there's been a resurgence and an increased number of attacks by Islamic militants, jihadists. Next thing is that they're struggling to contain this and they need more boots on ground in terms of the numbers. The other thing is also they are coming out of ECOWAS, where they would have gotten regional support, but now have to contend with AES, who's just an emergency regional body. And in terms of a joint effort in tackling the jihadists, it would be even more difficult because they don't have time, they don't have money, they don't have the resources. So what have they opted to do? On Friday, a government statement was released, and let me just read a statement from that. People, property and services may be requisitioned during general mobilization to contribute to the defense of the homeland. Already, since then, they doubled the number of military personnel to 50,000. In addition to that, they increased the number of high-ranking senior military officials from 47 to 52. So you can see that in a short time, they are grappling and looking for ways to tackle this insurgency, which, quite frankly, I don't think they're able, no country is able to tackle it alone. You need regional forces, you need regional cooperation, and this is maybe a push to cause them and an incentive for them to come back to ECOWAS and let ECOWAS be serious and decisive about tackling insecurity. Don't forget as well that they sent away their foreigners who had been helping them as well with the fight against the insurgents. So a number of things to contend with. But what's the reality on ground? It's a 29 million population in Niger, mainly youth population, but the youth is, the average age is teenagers, 15 years old. So where are they going to get the personnel from? They have increased the age, they have tried to mobilize people, and like you mentioned, would be the response rate as well? They also have a voluntary fund that they have created for people to give towards purchasing military equipment and agriculture. So they are grappling. It's not as easy as it looks like, and it just might very well be an opportunity for them to rethink their stance as to whether or not to be a part of ECOWAS, and for ECOWAS itself to show and demonstrate that they are a regional body that can guarantee, joint working in tackling insurgents that's plagued the Sahelian states. But we'll continue to watch on this one.
Okay, 3 issues about Niger, which is our neighboring country. One is general mobilization, that anybody can be conscripted into the army. Niger currently has a force of 40,000 soldiers. The plan is to increase that to 100,000 in 2026 in the light of threats to the sovereignty and the national interests of Niger. The second is requisition, meaning that anything and anybody can be mobilized in the direction of that particular objective. So citizens can be forced. The third is expansion of the military, which I already alluded to. So Niger is saying that it may be under threat, is trying to protect itself in its own national interest. However, what is the implication for Nigeria? Now, in November, there was a video that said Nigeria was trying to do a similar thing. But there was a fake video about General Oluyede saying that Nigerians will be conscripted to also follow in the same direction. But that was debunked by the defense headquarters. But the question I ask is that, okay, are we not at a point where Nigeria should even expand its own armed forces so that we can have more soldiers, more boots on the ground, whether what was done in November was fake news or whatever? Because we have to be sensitive to this regional environment and in building Nigeria into the super force that it ought to be. Now, as for President Trump, having a cozy relationship meeting in Florida with Netanyahu, nobody should be surprised about that. What we should be worried about is peace in Gaza, peace in that region. Now, obviously, Prime Minister Netanyahu has the ears of President Trump. This is the 5th time that he has visited the United States this year. And that, the underlying point should be about the hypocrisy of the United States in terms of the crisis in the Middle East and even elsewhere in the world. Finally, I would like to talk about Bangladesh, where Khalida Zia died at the age of 80. And Bangladesh is going to have elections in February,
Yes.
February, I think. And Hassan, the son of the husband of Khalida Zia, who just died, is back in the country and is hoping to become the next prime minister. The Zia family and the Hasina family, they've been having a cat and dog issue in that particular country. But okay, we're mourn with the people of Bangladesh, but all of this, the death of Khalida Zia may probably have implications. Wife of Azan, former prime minister, who suddenly became a major political figure, promoting women education, and then, of course, all of that may have implications for politics in that particular region. So these are the issues, in my view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Our Zimbabwe wife. You people are not doing well in AFCON. The African...
Yeah, we're counting on our in-laws. We said we'd give our in-laws a chance. So
Doing the job for you.
Thank you for your
Don't
commitment.
brag, boo. Let us win AFCON. Don't brag, boo.
Thank you
Don't
for-
spoil it. Don't
All the
jinx
way
it.
to win AFCON. Let's get to the...
Don't
Thank you for your
jinx it.
commitment to your
yes, our in-laws
Don't
should do it
jinx
for
it,
us.
boo. Don't talk, boo.
We love our Nigerians.